Crews are out on the Potomac River as we speak, recovering pieces of the airplane that collided with a Black Hawk helicopter near Reagan National Airport. We've heard the flight manifesto will be released sometime this afternoon, and we'll let you know once we find out exactly when that will happen. Last night, the National Transportation Safety Board announced they recovered the plane's black boxes. That will play a big role in helping investigators understand what led up to the crash. Thanks for joining us. I'm Corey Rose.
And I'm Jordan Chavez. NBC News obtained an unreleased FAA report that shows the staffing arrangement in the air traffic control tower was not normal Wednesday night. One air traffic controller was responsible for coordinating helicopter traffic on top of arriving and departing planes. Those duties are usually split between two people, but the airport typically combines those roles around 9:30 at night. That's when traffic begins to slow down. The tower supervisor had them combined earlier that night. Alan Gorski used to work air traffic control at Colorado Springs Airport. It's similar to Reagan in that it's closed to a military base. He says he and his former colleagues became concerned about safety when they noticed a shift in training and culture at the FAA.
There are many cases of near misses in our system. It's part of flying, unfortunately, and it needs to be resolved. And it continues to still happen even with the technology we have today.
The air traffic controller shortage has been a problem for years now. As of May, the FAA says it was short 3,000 people across the country.
Let's take a live look outside right now. Kiss the cold goodbye because we are in for a stretch of warm weather flirting with the 60s just in time for your weekend. Sounds really good. And Chris, you said it right. This is like the 67th day of January. It's felt very long and cold, and today things start to warm up.
And it's the fall spring before the fall spring before the fall spring.
Right.
Exactly right. This is the fall spring before the fall spring before the fall spring. Then you get into real spring, which lasts about 2 days. Then you get right back into summer. So that's the way it works here in Colorado, doesn't it? 30 degrees right now on this Friday morning, the final day of January. On this January the 86th, it is 30 degrees for us here in town. 20s, 30s for the most part in the eastern plains, a lot of single digits, and even a few below zero readings for us in the high country. Eastern plains, you might notice why it's a little warmer out here. We're getting a downslope wind off of the front range. That's why it's so much colder, though, in the mountains. You're, of course, not feeling that downsloping, drying, and warming wind. We'll get up into the mid-50s early to mid-afternoon today. Sunsplash skies. You got outdoor activities. Looks great for all of them. Looks great for a dog walk. Penny, you'll get a nice little walk later on today. 59 degrees for us with mostly sunny skies, maybe a few late day clouds. Otherwise, low impact weather for us on this final day of February. High temperature 59 degrees. Just looked up the daily record for today. It's 70 degrees. That was set way back in 1954. We're not going to make a run at that here in Denver today. That record's safe, but we may make a run at a record later on this weekend and maybe into early next week. Mountain snow this weekend. That'll be one of our main highlights. Also some mountain snow and some gusty winds for us in the foothills. Those will be our main takeaways as we head over the next couple of days. And of course, those really warm temperatures. I'll show you how warm it gets and when that warmth peaks. So I'll give you a hint. It's not today. I have details on that for you in the next couple of minutes. Send things over to Keely now for a look.
All right, thanks, Chris. And unlike yesterday, traffic pretty quiet out there at this 5 o'clock hour on this Friday morning. We are starting to see it pick up a bit. Here's a live look at I-25 right around 58th Avenue. No big problems as of yet on the roadways. Let's go ahead and take a look at your drive times. Lots of green on our travel map this morning. We're looking at an 11-minute commute westbound I-76 E470 to Commerce City. Not too bad. 8 minutes southbound I-25, 144th Avenue to I-76. If you're heading westbound 36 Denver to Boulder, that's an easy 17-minute commute. We're looking at 4 minutes northwest 270 I-70 to I-25. And if you're traveling northbound I-25 from Castle Rock, that is where we were yesterday morning and the roads were terrible. Very nice, easy drive, 16 minutes Castle Rock to I-225, and heading between downtown and the Denver Tech Center, it'll take you about 14 minutes in either direction.
Keely, thank you. New this morning, the state of speeding in Colorado. Colorado State Patrol released new data focused on the counties with the most speeding tickets.
9 News reporter Brianna Fernandez joins us live near I-25 this morning. Brianna, what does the data say?
Yeah, Jordan, Corey, the top counties, Douglas and Jefferson County. The good news is that those two counties are not at the top of Colorado State Patrol's list. El Paso made #1 according to Colorado State Patrol. The bad news is that those three counties, El Paso, Douglas, and Jefferson County, have been at the top of the list for the past 4 years. Colorado State Patrol says speeding is one of the most common types of aggressive driving. Troopers see unsafe passing, tailgating, and going way over the speed limit in zones that you should probably be taking it easy.
Just some of the things that I even have personally seen is people going over 115 miles an hour in a posted 65 zone on I-25. Once a trooper sees something just like that, you will be given a citation, and there's always that possibility with those high amounts of speed to receive a summons to go into court.
Gosh, I see a lot of speeders on I-25. So, Brianna, which interstates do troopers see the most problems?
Yeah, so I-25 and I-70. So coming up in the next hour, we're actually going to break down how many citations Colorado State Patrol gave last year. For now, I'm live along I-25. Brianna Fernandez for 9 News.
Brianna, thank you. Within the last hour, we got word from King Soopers that it plans to stay open even as its workers voted to strike, and that walkout could happen at any time. We received word last night of the result of that vote. According to the union, workers voted to overwhelmingly authorize a strike. The exact times, dates, and locations will come later, and the union says they'll let the public know ahead of time. Still, they're working to strike a deal with the company. This morning, we've learned King Soopers will keep its doors open as those negotiations continue. The company tells us it's been committed to negotiating in good faith since October.
In just about 3 hours, one of 3 suspects accused of robbing and shooting a man selling jewelry near his home is set to be arraigned. This happened back in November. Deputies say Louis James and 2 other men met with the seller at an apartment complex near 8th and Conifer. The seller thought he was finishing a deal they had made online. That's when investigators say the suspect stole his jewelry, shot him, and ran off. Deputies arrested all 3 suspects just 3 days later. James faces an aggravated robbery charge. He is due in court at 8:30 this morning in Adams County.
New this morning, a church in Colorado Springs is asking for help right now after it was vandalized for the 4th time in 6 months on Monday. This morning, we got security video from across the street, which caught the latest incident. You can see people run up to the church and tear down a banner before driving off. First Congressional Church says that rainbow banner they tore down has been up for years. They've been vandalized several times before, but this time was different.
In past incidents, we have not had any theft occur. Damage, yes. We've had, unfortunately, graffiti on both the front of the building, on the side of the building. It's disheartening knowing that there are people out there who wish to be damaging.
The church is on the National Register of Historic Places, which is why the building doesn't have any cameras outside. Bond says that might have to change, but it is a complicated process because of the church designation.
The U.S. government declared a public health emergency for the coronavirus outbreak 5 years ago today. It's still unclear how COVID started in Wuhan, China back in 2019. The CDC says more than 1 million people died in connection to the virus. Researchers say the pandemic took a toll on people's mental health, especially children and teens.
President Trump says he plans to impose 25% tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico starting tomorrow. That would force U.S. companies buying the imports to pay extra to the U.S. Treasury. Many economists say that typically leads to higher prices for consumers. Canada and Mexico are some of the U.S.'s biggest trade partners, so the tariffs could affect prices on all sorts of goods. Trump's pick for Commerce Secretary argues that won't happen. Economists say tariffs can help domestic producers by pressuring American companies to buy from them.
The president of Mexico is urging Google not to change the name of the Gulf of Mexico on its maps. CNN reports President Claudia Sheinbaum sent a letter to Google contesting the name change. On Monday, Google announced that it would rename the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America for Google Maps users in the U.S. The company says the change is in line with President Trump's executive order to rename it. Users in Mexico will still see Gulf of Mexico on Google Maps.